So today we're going to revisit a topic I've covered a few times, which is what does your competition do to recruit and really retain your students? I call them your students because I think they're all our students in public schools. Now, like I said, I've done this topic before, but it's kind of backed by popular demand, I guess. I've been asked to give this speech at a few upcoming national school conferences, very fancy. And I thought, well, for those that want to listen at home, I might as well dig into this subject too, and teach everybody what's going on. And I always think it's important to review what others are doing. You never know what you're going to learn from. Yeah, you can learn from your competition. You can learn from your friends, your allies, and even in different industries you can learn. So today we're really going to focus on some updates to what the competition's been doing to recruit the students, and you should compare that with, well, should we be doing that? And just because they're doing it doesn't mean you should be doing it, right? But you should analyze all of your efforts. And I think the key is to really create a better user experience for all the families. And that's the ultimate goal in all this. So I would say that Caroline is producing today. She's asked me to also share the slides, I guess, for YouTube, right? For YouTube? Mm-hmm. Right, YouTube. I don't really focus on YouTube, but I don't think we focus on YouTube. But if you want the slide deck and you're listening at home, know there are slides, and we, email us to them. We'll send them to you. I want you to have all the information possible. All right. So yeah, the YouTube videos are going to look a little messier. I don't have time to make it all look perfect, Caroline. We got to get busy recruiting students out there for public school. So, okay. I do want to adjust one thing though in this presentation, and that is this big fancy word, competition. And it's occurred to me that, look, words are important, and the way that we come at different subjects is important. And this competition thing, like we're going to compete for students, can kind of feel toxic. This word, competition, we shouldn't have to compete. Public schools is a public good. It shouldn't be in a competitive atmosphere, according to many, many, many of us. But certainly the school choice movement is here. It's not going away. And the rules of the game have changed. And now it is a competitive marketplace, right? And how are we going to compete in this new marketplace of parents could choose? Now, it used to be that parents could say, well, they choose with their taillights. And what that means is, well, if they don't like the school, they'll leave. Well, that's not always a practical solution. Not everyone can afford to move. Not everyone is going to move. But now that they have a different school choice in their area, is it the right one? Well, they're going to evaluate their options, right? But the word competition, maybe instead of competition, we should strike this slide, Caroline. We should strike this slide. And we should, what can you do to build a vigorous community? What can you do to build community? And actually, I would like the slide adjusted before this presentation, Caroline. And keep this, but strike through the word competition so we can talk about it a little bit more, because for a lot of people that are running for school board and principals and teachers, you're there trying to do the right thing. You're just trying to educate the babies. And now you're forced to be a sleazy salesman, sleazy marketing person. And that's the image. And we got to uncork that. I want you to advocate for what you do that's awesome. Don't worry about the competition. Worry about advocating for yourself. And I think that that's going to be my new premise. I just want you to advocate for yourselves. Don't worry about competing. Just do you and let the chips fall what they are. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so let's get into some updates, and let's talk a little bit of ancient history, because first off, I think anytime you're starting to think about how to reach your families, how to reach the decision makers, there's lots of ways to do it. But think about it in two different buckets, if you will. An air campaign and a ground campaign. Air campaign are these vehicles. We call them vehicles. A billboard, for instance, like on this side, is a vehicle. TV commercial is a vehicle. Radio ad's a vehicle. Text message vehicle. Door knock's a vehicle. Those are all just different methods to reach people, right? Well, the air ones are the big sweeping nets that just hit everybody, right? So a TV commercial hits big, not a very distinct, small group of people. It's you're throwing it out there. Yeah, you try to pick the right channel that they have, parents on it. So you'd want to, family-friendly shows and all that stuff. But that's still air campaign. Billboards are air. Whoever's driving by is going to see it. It's not called targeting. Ground campaigns, very, very targeted. Very, very targeted, right? Very precise. Now, billboards. You are going to see your competition do billboards. You're going to see your competition do air campaign things. Air campaigns help you build awareness. It lets people know that you exist. All right. So think about this in terms of a political campaign, if you will, which is not a bad model to look at, the first thing a candidate has to do is they have to introduce themselves. They have to have people know that they exist before they can start making a decision to vote or not vote for that person. So your competition has to let people know that they exist. And so they have to do air campaigns. Do you have to do air campaigns? Well, not to enroll students, you don't, because they already know you exist, right? So from an awareness standpoint, billboards, TV commercials, radio are not necessary to enroll students. They are good tools to build brand reputation building. So if you want just to let people know how awesome you are and you just want to kind of reinforce that, air campaigns can certainly be good for that. So you're going to see billboards. Now, don't think that a billboard's going to enroll a student. It ain't going to do it. It ain't going to do it. What it will do is help reinforce great reputation building, and that's an ancillary type goal right now. The goal for this particular presentation is to enroll students, get those babies enrolled and keep them. And billboard ain't going to do it either as a TV commercial, but it does help with reputation building. Okay, I know I said that 5 times now. The reason why I have to say it 5 times is because I get so much pushback over the years, man. And so I just want you to hear it a couple times so it can reinforce the fact that it doesn't make somebody click on a website. All right, it doesn't make somebody sign on the line that is dotted, and those are ground operations. All right, so certainly billboards, you'll see that. I don't think it's necessary to enroll students. I think I've probably covered that too much right now. And will they use mail? Well, sure, they're going to use mail. They're going to do the same things that we know to reach people, and hopefully this is a very controlled mail piece. Well, hopefully it's not. If it's for us, we want it to be directly to the people making a choice. But I hope they just waste their money trying to advertise to everybody. All right, we want to be very concrete with our use of dollars, right? So they will run ads like this one. Okay, now this particular ad that you can't see it because you're listening on the podcast, sorry, is this ad, it's from a charter school, and it says teens busted by Liberty High School, which is a public high school in the area, with more than $3,000 worth of cocaine. Now, you get the implication, right? Is that they're not just advocating for themselves with this piece. They are attacking you. Now, we don't do this in any of our enrollment strategies. It's a real interesting thing in politics is the only time that a candidate should attack another candidate is if they're losing, right? They're not winning. And so what it is if you're running a very well-oiled machine, a very good campaign, and you're ahead, you want to keep everything status quo. You want everything to go exactly the way that you planned. But if you're losing, you want to create chaos. You want to create an agent of disruption because you're going to lose. So you might as well do everything different, mix up the bag, so to speak, get a little crazy, get a little wild, and do something different so that you can not lose but win. And what a lot of people do is a very simple thing, which is attack, okay? Because attack is an agent of disruption. Now, attacks may help you, it may hurt you, but you just don't know. But heck, you're losing anyway. That's when people go on the offensive and start to attack. So we have never needed, nor will we ever need, to attack the competition, to attack other schools in order to enroll the babies. All we have to do is advocate for what makes you awesome. That's the trick here. Now, this charter school felt, for some reason, maybe they don't know what the rules are in attacks, but they are clearly attacking here. The local public high school has cocaine and drugs in it. Well, I didn't create this piece for them. I don't know why they did this. I don't think it's effective. I think they can enroll students without attacking. So I think it's a mistake, but it certainly does leave impact on the viewer, doesn't it? So they're attacking, but once again, the first two elements we have here, billboards and attack pieces, don't think you need to do. I think it's a mistake, and it will get you so beat up in the press anyway. Like, avoid attacks at all costs. Even though they're doing it, don't recommend you do it too. Okay. Now, I do like this particular ad in one point, which is they have this big slogan here that says, classes are almost full. Classes are almost full. Now, that's called a scarcity tactic. We have limited seats. We only have one of this particular car. If you don't buy it before you leave the lot, the car will be gone. You know, scarcity makes a lot of people buy. And I'm always very aware when it's happening to me. And we get it here at the company all the time. This is what we do for a living, is to sell, right? Public schools. And we still have vendors that go, now we can give you this discounted price, but we have to know today. They'll have that same discounted price tomorrow, Caroline. They'll have the same. They can do it today. They can do it tomorrow. They can do it next day. They are trying to create artificial, fake scarcity to push you into making a decision now to sign on the line that is dotted, right? So they are using scarcity, and scarcity is a great tool. That's why your STEM programs will fill up fast, because there are limited seats and a lot of people want those. So this limitation's kind of good. It's kind of neat. How do you leverage that in public schools? Well, you let people know that there are deadlines to get the best seats, in some cases. And so, but anyway, they use scarcity. Public schools have to take all the babies, regardless of they can't ever fill up their classes, right? So you can't really use this tactic as much as your competitors do. The other one's trying to build their own community, right? I think they're actually competing. I think we're afraid of competition, but I think they're actively competing against us. And that's why public schools have gone from having about 45 million students out of the 50 million that's been pretty consistent for the last 20 years. There are about 50 million students nationwide, K-12 space. And that number of public schools is now drifting all the way down to like 29 to 30 million. It's lowering every year because they're competing. I'm just going to put that out there again. Okay. So the premise is that air campaigns, and this is marketing. Marketing is really about air campaigns, right? Marketing is not finite, not a deliverable date. You just keep selling Coke every single day. You build awareness, and then people will get used to it and they'll start buying it because it's a present product, right? Marketing will build your reputation, but it's not going to recruit new students. It helps reinforce it, right? So we got to be careful about just marketing because trust me, I haven't even gotten down to their ground campaigns and what they're doing. So that should be a little bit more fun. So the context of all this is that, and what I want you to walk away with, you listen to this whole podcast, listen to it 5 or 6 times, please. Tell your friends, is that you can stabilize and grow your enrollment in public schools, even in this competitive marketplace. You can do it. And by the way, it's the surest path to protect our budgets and make sure we have the resources to train the babies, but you can do it. And I think since the last time I've talked about this, like given this presentation live at a conference, was probably 2 years ago. There were a lot of defeated people out there just 2 years ago. Didn't think they could compete. Didn't think they could win. Didn't think that they had something awesome to present. But I am seeing more and more school districts believe they can win. And I like that, man. I like that a lot because you can. And we've seen it. How many students, how much money have we returned to school budgets right now, Caroline? Do you know what the latest figure is of how we've grown school budgets?
Somewhere in the upwards of $400 million, 420.
Okay. That's what we've grown school budgets by recruiting new students. Students that used to go there to come back, new students that didn't pick you to begin with. Anyway, so you can do it. It's hard, but you can absolutely do it. You've got the best product. Okay. So I think the one thing that the alternative competition does is they believe their product's better. They believe it. I mean, I don't know if maybe that's the first pro tip here is they just believe they're better. They're not, but they believe it, and that's what they go out and sell. Okay, so first, you can do it. Let's get pumped up. Okay, So in my latest book, I love saying that. I feel so odd saying that. Is the blueprint for success is this very first bucket, which is you got to commit to choose and you got to choose to compete, and that's kind of what we're talking about because that is what the competition's been doing, man. So there are other elements, but we're going to stay up in that choose to compete, and if so, how are you going to compete? You've chosen. You're listening to this podcast. You're the winners. You know what? I'm preaching to the choir right now. You already know, so I should probably move on. But tell your friends. Tell your friends. All right. So, as a reinforcement point to all your team members and all your employees and all your staff is that parents are shopping. I think a lot of the leadership knows that, and a lot of people that are aware of the impact of school choice. And what we're seeing is this part of our national survey is that every year, even if they're satisfied with their school, and that's part of this, you can go back and find that podcast earlier where I talk about our national data, but even if they're satisfied, they're still likely to shop. Satisfaction scores are not enough to keep them in your school because not only do they want to be satisfied, they want their children successful. Not only do they want to be satisfied, they want better. So you got to continue to improve and you got to let them know what you're doing. Okay. So don't rest on your laurels. Was that a funny voice, Caroline? Not a funny voice. She hated that voice, guys. I'm never going to do it again while she's here anyway. So competition's here, and with increase of vouchers, let's get in the game. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about I want to talk a little bit about the psychology. I want to talk a little bit about the psychology of marketing and selling. And I pulled up this old ad. I love this. I can't remember what year this was, but it must have been in the 70s or the 80s. And it's all about sugar. Okay, it's all about sugar. Well, how does sugar compare to like public schools and alternative schools and competition? Well, there was a time, I know it sounds really odd now in 2026, where sugar was considered awesome for our bodies. It was amazing. And this one ad says, sugar's quick energy can be the willpower you need to eat less. That was an actual ad in magazines and newspapers. Now, a magazine for you children is kind of like an iPad, but with paper, and you have to turn pages over. Anyway, and it was the ad was titled Diet Device Sugar. Literally, Diet Device Sugar. And the other one said Diet Tip. Sugar keeps your energy up and your appetite down. So have more sugar. And this is when the war on fat occurred. This is when I don't know if you youngins may not recall, but everything was fat-free. And what do they do to make it taste good when they removed all the fat? They put sugar in it. What do we now know? What did we know then, too, that was hidden by the marketing companies? Sugar's the bad thing. Sugar's what makes us obese. Sugar makes you more hungry. Have you had a cookie? Have you ever eaten a cookie in your life? What do you want? You want another cookie. Is that just me? Am I the only one that I don't want to eat one? I want to eat 5 cookies, right? Because sugar doesn't fill you up. It burns right through you, and you do it. I think we know this. I'm sorry, it's not supposed to be a nutrition class right now. But the point is they're running ads. They're running ads out there, and this is all by a lobbyist company. You know, is the sugar industry paying for this? Attacking fat. Carbs, protein, and fat. That's what we need. Not in the same proportions, but we need that. Sugar is not on that list, kids. But the advertising companies convinced us sugar was good and fat's bad. And that's what you got to be careful about. So those earlier ads of heroin and drugs are in the public schools. They in the private schools too. They in the drugs are drugs, man. I mean, the rich kids are the ones with the money to buy the drugs. You know, so come on, man. You got to be really careful. There is a lot of competitive ads, and I've really limited them from this presentation because I don't want to get fixated on all the attack pieces they're doing on you, but they are attacking you. I don't recommend it. I think it's a mistake, but you need to be aware that it's happening. Okay. And it's false front. Sugar's quick energy, and every private and every charter and every homeschool and every no school is perfect, and we're terrible. That's the message that people are getting that we have to get around. Okay. Oh, Lordy. Okay, I'm not going to talk about how we got there long term. You guys get the competitions here, and it's equal. So let's kind of keep rolling. So I want to get a little bit more tactical. And I thought about this presentation. It's like, man, I always wanted to be an inspirational speaker. You know, that like, you can do it, man. But I get very practical and tactical. And so this is going to be a little bit more tactical, but I hope that there's a few things you can take away from it. So sorry if I'm not more uplifting. Is the right word? Okay, so let's talk about tactics. Now, are they doing paid digital ads? Absolutely. Do they ask for referrals from parents? Like testimonials from a parent is powerful. Do they use CRMs? And if you're not familiar with CRMs, good for you. That means you're not a salesperson. You're not supposed to know what a CRM is, a customer relationship management system or something like that. But it's sales funnel. They're called sales funnel. Where you start off with 10,000 students you want to recruit, or 10,000 people you want to sell something to, and you have multiple stages, and it kind of funnels, gets tighter and tighter and tighter until of those 10,000 you roll 100 new students. And that's kind of the math, man. Start off with 10,000, get about 100 students if you do all the activities that we're going to talk about today, right? And they use very complex, proven sales tools, right? And so complex sales system, you guys heard of Salesforce and HubSpot and all these things. You got to have those tools. And those tools that create funnels are what they're doing. And they're using math and science. And yes, the psychology of scarcity, the psychology of fear, the psychology of plain out BS like sugar, and all the public schools have heroin in them. I mean, they're going to use those, but they're absolutely going to have community presence. They're going to be at the festivals. They're going to be at the youth games. They're going to be out talking to the people, which is the most effective tool, right? And they're going to use all these different tactics because there's not one tactic to reach everybody. And I think it's important for you to get that the parents, the families get up to 15,000 messages a day. They're exposed to 15,000 brands and questions and dialogue and statements, and it's exhausting for every human being on the planet. It used to be, this is probably about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was 10,000. And that 5,000 was a jump, right? Because 10 years before that 10,000, it was only like 7,000. And social media and everything, and internet just blown that number up. And that's why everyone's exhausted. So what your competition really gets is frequency. They are not going to get bored. They're going to enroll students. And we don't want to bother anybody. Well, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to annoy them with too many text messages. I don't want to annoy them with too many digital ads. You got to annoy them. You got to cut through 15,000 messages that people get daily. And that takes a lot of consistent frequency to do that. So the first issue, it's not an art thing. It's not how powerful your messages are. It's not how pretty your designs are. It's consistency and frequency, right? And so then we're going to talk tactics, but I want to make sure that frequency, you cannot get bored with your message. The old adage is when you're bored giving your message, when you're exhausted of giving that speech, they just started to listen. So keep that in mind, all right? So, but the competition has really ramped up their use of these funnel systems and these paid digital ads, certainly they're targeted, right? So I think, paid digital ads can be very targeted. I think of them more as a ground operation. We use a lot of digital ads, less digital ads that just go everywhere. We like to talk to specific demographic groups that we believe have children, but they start so early. They start so early running these digital ads, right? I mean, they're running the ads year round. Their enrollments are open in some cases year round. Or at least they're gathering information year round. And that's why they want to get people in their funnel. So it's a very, I guess my high level point is they've gotten very scientific with all this. It's not guesswork. And there's an old joke too. It's old axiom. It's not a joke, I guess it's true, which is half of our marketing or advertising dollars, half of it is wasted. We just don't know which half. So you're wasting 50% of your resources. Science and understanding these CRMs will help tighten that up. We can't afford to do that. When we recruit students, we pay for every dime of those recruitment efforts. We have to know where every dollar goes. And they're really starting to get a handle on this too. So they're not wasting a lot of money out there doing things that are not necessary. And they use science and data to enforce that, right? So I peppered in a few other ads in here to soften the science aspects of this, to keep it a little lively, a little fun, right? But they are answering the why. Like, so this one ad talks about why us? Why us? Well, why not public schools? That's them advocating for themselves. Like, this is why should we choose this school district? Why should we choose this school? And you always recruit to schools, really not districts. Why should we choose this school? Because it's awesome and it has all these great things, right? They're advocating for themselves. And then you still get ads out there that are this next one is a flagrant lie. It's a flagrant lie. It's a flagrant false flag, which is it's a sugar ad. Here's your sugar ad. Delivering high quality education, no matter the zip code. Now, no matter the zip code, that implies that they, by law or by mandate, will educate every single child. Every single child, they'll do it. But that's not true. I mean, charter school earlier was talking about having limited seats. They're not, the zip code matters to them. Don't think it doesn't. They are recruiting away the best and the brightest. Why wouldn't they? I don't harm them for this. I just know that we by law can't do it. We want to educate all the babies, and I wish the laws would catch up to that, but they're not there yet. So, just be aware of what they're doing, right? Now, I know that public schools are already having great enrollment fairs. I think this is necessary. They're doing that also. They're big dates, week here. I think this time slot's a little weird, 12 to 4 on this. So I'm sorry, there's an ad here and it says we're doing an enrollment fair and it's 12 to 4. A lot of parents are working then. I think that's a miss for them. I think you've got to think about enrollment fairs when the people can come, when the parents, the decision makers can come. And a lot of times you have single family households, you have the grandparents raising them, people have jobs, people have lives. I mean, why does this go to 6:30? So on their way home, they can swing by. Like, this feels a little lazy by the charter schools, but I think that's an opportunity to do better, right? Now, once again, ads, I'm going to kind of scroll through a little bit of these. Giving your education the best child. So let's get into, oh, wait, I got to pause real quick on this one ad. This ad really bothers me. This was an ad that's been around for a while, but they're still doing it. They're updated versions of this. It says, I want to keep the children's innocence. So if you go to our school, we're going to keep them innocent. One, I don't want my child to be innocent. I want him to grow up at some point. Sheltered, protected, cautious for sure. But it also implies, the negative of this is it implies that a public school is not going to keep him innocent. I'm sorry, before I found the gospel of public education, I've said this before, my daughter went to private school. The pictures she saw on her phones at the private school weren't very good from the boys neither. Okay, so public or private, innocence is going to be lost, all right? But to imply that all the competition's not is just utter garbage. Now, let's get back into the science. Websites. So the websites in a lot of cases is the front door to the enrollment, like CRM system. Like it's the hub. It's not the front door, but it's like the hub. So all your digital ads pour into it. If somebody wants to follow it because you talk to them, they're going to go to the website. The enrollment links need to be clear and obvious and present. Your competition uses science, and there's a lot of science behind this. If you Google the brain lady, I can't ever pronounce her name, Dr. Wojcicki, but if you Google the brain lady, Dr. W, she does a lot of science breakdown. Oh man, I think we should get her on the podcast at some point. That would be dope. Is a future episode for you all. Is the placement of the enrollment button. In the United States, we enroll to American schools, we read left to right. Well, people, and she would tell you this, the science says that people are going to remember two parts of a speech. The high point of the speech and the end. What do we all practice? The beginning, because that's us. But the user, the person we're trying to create a experience, it's the end. So you put the enrollment button at the top right, because if you're reading left to right, that's the last thing you want to see. And then the color choice really matters. Contrasting colors, red and white. All the little science on get somebody to click a button. And I know we haven't even gotten to the art. We haven't even gotten to is it important that we have great schools? Yeah, but you do. You do have great schools. The issue is we're not telling people enough about it. And we're not capturing their attention enough so they even begin to explore what the schools are. And until you grab the parents' attention, they will not learn about your schools. So you've got to do the science first. And I think all too often, we spend too much time on the art. What about this messaging? Isn't this website beautiful? But if nobody goes to it, it was a lot of wasted energy. And I want people, when they go to your websites, when they go to your social media, to be engaged and active and to click so then they can learn more. So first, I think it's what we're saying is you got to hook them. You got to hook them, right? And so the website is a big hook. The enroll now, make it easy for them. We do a lot of secret shopping. And what we find is the enrollment processes in public schools are just much more convoluted, much more complex than the competition. And it's really, I understand why. It's years of layered bureaucracy. It's years of, we should add this and we should add this. But nobody ever goes back down and re-strips everything down to its basic fundamental elements. And a lot of districts will tell me this. Well, by law, we have to have that. I've looked up that law. The thing you do by law have to have a lot of things. Multiple languages, ADA accessible. Yes, that's all true. But a lot of this stuff is just things that people liked and they never went back and streamlined it. And so the websites have gotten so busy. I reviewed a website the other day for a secret shopper, and they had, I think it was 25 to 28 buttons on their homepage. It was overwhelming. I had no sense of what was important to them. None. They're find your bus route, all these little things that could have gone on page 2, 3, 4, anything. It could have gone beneath the fold is what we used to say in newspapers. Anything beneath the fold is just less important. You've got to make the main thing. And on your homepage, it's learn why we're awesome. Here's a menu to go to some other place and enroll now, man. That's very important, And so you've got to go back and evaluate all of your collateral in a way that scientifically connects first. And then we can worry about whether or not the words and the colors are the best they can be. So we got to keep with the science, okay? So some other things your competition's doing. Once again, can't do it all. Giveaways. So this has been going on. I didn't want to, boy, I've seen some new giveaways, and I don't want people to think that we're attacking and going after people. So I've kind of used a little bit more antiquated ads, but you can Google it, you can Bing it, and you can find updated ads about, they give free iPads, free gas cards. This one's giving a summer vacation. If you're I would like a free summer vacation. A free summer vacation. And by the way, who pays for all this? The taxpayers. The taxpayers pay for it. Now, can't figure out why it's okay for a charter school that's paid for by taxpayers to give an iPad away, but you can't give an iPad away. Or a vacation away. It's unfair. It's unjust. Okay, but just be aware that's what they do. We can't do it. You know, these tours they give, red carpet tours. Here, have a cappuccino. I can't spell cappuccino, right? You know, and are we allowed to give a cup of coffee for a family? Well, we can't do the giveaways. We can't bribe people. You don't need to, but we can't bribe people. And yes, are those fighting words, Caroline? When I say bribe, are those fighting words?
No, I don't think they're fighting words.
Yeah, but you're hardcore. I think somebody else would say they're fighting words, right? We're just trying to give them the resources. Summer vacations are resources. Well, everybody needs a break. And the kids need an iPad. Okay, then why can't public schools do it, man? I don't know. We can't give stuff away and bribe people to go there. And that's what I think they're doing. But anyway, all right. So let's talk about a couple other tactics. I want you in the press. I think that one of the top roles of the superintendent, the school board, is to be visible in the community. Go to the Chamber of Commerce. Go to homeowners associations, right? Go to the Kwanzas and the Rotary clubs and all those things. Be present out there. Be in the community. That's what community building is about. And that does help. When people see you, that does reinforce a good buyer's decision, right? And so I would say, I think this is funny because this particular ad is a bought ad. It looks like earned media, right? It says charter school innovation. And it's all talking about how innovative and awesome all these things are. Maybe it's true or maybe it's not true. But it's paid. The charter school paid for this to run. And it's funny, once again, back to magazines. It used to be easier because you would see something, it seemed like an article in a magazine. You'd be reading it and you'd be like, it would be about some location. It was awesome. And then at the very bottom in small print, you say paid advertisement. You know, so the entire thing was an ad, but you thought it was a story. And so it's clever. It's clever, you know, so that's what they're doing. All right. Are they making live phone calls to your parents? Yes. Are they doing mass emails, mass texts? Yes. Are they targeting, tracking, and using complex CRM systems? Yes, they are, right? And so are they increasing their budgets for specifically to recruit students? Absolutely, they are. They are, you know, student recruitment, management, marketing, all that stuff they're doing, right? So what should you be doing? Let's talk about what we should be doing. How are we going to crush it from a technical standpoint? Well, the first thing to start with is good data. That's job number one. And we run these national polls. We give you the national polls. If we go in and do a phase one, we call it phase one student recruitment to recruit new students. We run a poll in the area because we want to know what people want. And, you know, it's funny. You could be selling something they don't want, even though it's good. And you could be not selling something to the families they really care about that you do well, that they didn't know you did well. And I got, of course, you know me, I got stories, right? So we did a review of all the, we weren't doing recruitment for them. We were doing a communications plan and an audit of what they were doing to try to, you know, put some guardrails, tap them left and tap them right. And we did a survey and I went to present it, and I was presenting it to the school cabinet and not the school board, the superintendent, chief of staff, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, look, school safety is super important, student success super important. But the other thing that these families really are craving and wanting is more extracurricular activities. I'm going to say the word again, extracurricular. With my speech impediment, that word is still such a bear for me to say, but I got to focus on it. Extracurricular activities. And the district's like, we have 183. And I pulled out an ad from the competition, and they were advertising. Funny you said 183, superintendent. They are advertising they have 183 extracurricular activities. Isn't that a coincidence? And he goes, wait a minute, those are ours. There are students come in and use our extracurricular activities. I go, right. They're all yours. I don't know if any of them Because you have 183, they have 183. I'm surprised they didn't put 186 or something. Like, did they not have 3 extra ones? No, they are completely leveraging what you do, but they are selling it and they're telling people about it. They're advocating, and you're not. And rightly so, pretty upset superintendent, because they have these great programs, these great after school and before school programs. They just weren't telling anybody about it. So I think the first thing to do is start with good data. And, certainly leverage our national data. Go talk to your own teams, get your own data, but make sure you're giving them, you can't lie, you can't bribe, you can't steal. But if they say, I want extracurricular activities, promote those. Even if it's not 183, if it's 20, promote the 20 you've got. Be happy that you're doing something and tell people about it, man. Fair? Okay. Okay. So I think we're drifting into the art right now. And, I don't know, I'm going to kind of mix up the art and science a little bit, I think about Mr. Spock a lot when it comes to sales, marketing, advertising, live long and prosper. Yeah, Star Trek, right? Mr. Spock. And what I have on this slide image is Mr. Spock with a big fancy Cadillac Escalade SUV and a minivan, right? Now, From a logical standpoint, every human being on earth ought to pick the minivan. If we were purely led by logic, and this is what I'm trying to express to you right now, okay? As you guys get the data, right? You get the data and you say they're really motivated by extracurricular activities. You may have heard this. You got to sell the sizzle, not the steak, right? People are led by their emotions and they're not led by logic. In fact, look, there's about 12, 14% of the population that are engineers that are completely led by logic. But, engineer types, right? My wife's one of them, by the way. She's not led by emotion. I am. I buy things emotionally, right? But most people buy things emotionally, at least over 80%, according to most science. But most people are led by emotion, not logic. So if you want to say, well, we have to give the facts and the data you have to know the facts and the data, but you don't sell the facts and the data, right? You sell the sizzle. And this is my example. So Mr. Spock will pick the minivan. Seats more people. I don't know if you've ever driven in a minivan. They are super comfortable. Cabin chair, I'm up. I can get my bikes in and out of the back easier than an SUV. I mean, it makes perfect sense for Brian Stevens to drive a minivan. It makes perfect sense. Do I drive a minivan? Heck, no, I don't drive a minivan unless I rent one. I love to rent one. But no, I don't want to, because it doesn't fit the image of who I am. Emotionally, I just kind of connect with a minivan. So I'm going to go, drive something dope, drive something exciting that is not as logical as a minivan. But isn't that what most of us do? And I think that from a communication standpoint, we have to get that the sizzle is what sells families. And your competition is given the sizzle where you've got the steak. You've got the steak. You've got the meat. You've got the best programs, more services, more extracurricular activities. That's a mouthful, right? You've got those, but you've got to sell the sizzle. So how do you sell the sizzle, right? How do you sell? Okay, back to the science. I know, right? Yeah, I'm sitting here giving this talk, and it feels a little overwhelming to me too. So just pause me, come back to it whenever you get to it. I feel bad for the people if they're going to be in the speech. Here's the science. 3 message points, 3 selling points with no more than 21 words each. Okay, why? Well, 3 message points because the human body, and this is on average, some of you better, some of you are worse, can remember up to 3 things at a time before they have to utilize that information or they forget it. They lose it. 3. If you do 5, they've already started forgetting. They're not going to remember any of it because it's just too much. And we know this as people that get information, as people that receive information. We know that we want people to be brief, we want people to be concise, and we want people to kind of get to the point, right? And you cannot overwhelm me with 28 factoids. I cannot consume it. No, it's just too much. But we had this thing called speaker's amnesia. I call it speaker's amnesia. When we're speaking to another person, we forget these rules and we just blabber on and on. Oh man. No, this is a podcast. I'm supposed to blabber. Hush. As Caroline did a little mocking, you're blabbing. She's always messing with me. You send all hate mail to caroline@quesaps.com. Okay. Sorry. So the 3 message points is they've got to utilize information in some way. And so figure out your top 3 selling points for every individual school. And they can be different for each school. And you just got to pound on people with that. Pound on people. And you cannot get bored. You cannot get bored. You have to have frequency. And you could say, well, we've been talking about those 3 selling points for a year. We've been talking about them for 3 years. Yeah, but you haven't been talking frequently enough. You haven't been doing consistently enough. You have new families every year coming and going, and they have never heard your 3 main points. Don't get bored with your own messaging. It's called message discipline. Message discipline. You've got to stay the course. Do not get distracted and start, God, I hate it when companies, we got to freshen our brand up. No, you don't. Leave your brand alone. Oh, go back to Coke. What happened with New Coke? Failure. They sell more beverages than anybody else. They sell Coke. The brand has changed. It works. Hush. You don't need new logos. New logos aren't going to bag anybody. Consistent message points that impact the parents, the decision makers. What do they want to hear? We know nationally, we see this in every district. They want their children to be safe. So you've got to have a message point that safety is a top priority and you know, blah, 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 blah. You can have little details underneath that. And success, your child, our mission is not to make your child necessarily feel good. It's to make sure they're successful alive. We're going to protect them. We're going to keep them safe, but we're going to push them, right? We're going to make sure they're successful. And success is different in every district, by the way. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. And then the third one is some random thing that's always different in every single individual school. What do those families want? Now, so 3, initially your list will be 10 or 12. You've got to keep liquidating. You got to redline it. Brevity is a virtue. Just keep redlining till you get down to 3. It takes work. Now, second part. Each message point has to have less than 21 words. 21 words. So that's 1 message point of 21 words, 2 of 21 words, 3 of 21 words. And the way I say it like that, somebody goes, all 3 combined, 21 words? No, each independently. Because each 21-word statement is basically a elevator speech. Okay, so it's that soundbite. It's funny. In the North, it could be 24 words. They talk a little faster than we do down here in the South. And if you talk real slow, it could be 18 words, but the norm is about 21. That's a soundbite. That's about 7.3 seconds. And so that's about how many words you can get. So that's a soundbite. That's an elevator speech. So you need all of your ambassadors, your parents, your teachers, your front door staff, your principals, all know 3 message points of all no more than 21 words. It's not that much to memorize. And by the way, once they memorize it, don't dink with it. Leave it alone. Have message discipline. It will take years to penetrate those 15,000 messages that we've talked about. It'll take years to cut through all the noise of all this. So, you know, people are completely overwhelmed, and you need to have the message discipline to stay the course and have discipline. And obviously, this is my slide that's completely outdated. It says 10,000 points on that, which has been changed. Okay, so once again, slides. Okay, I know. Does anybody go into a presentation and go, I can't wait for a PowerPoint? Do they? Okay. Yeah, probably my wife. She's a bigger nerd than I am. Okay, so I've given you some examples in the slides, if you want it, about how to develop strong sound bites using, you know, wit, simile, metaphors, analogy, things like that. It can be clever. It can be cute, easy to memorize. Just make sure it matches with what the users, the parents, or the decision makers, the caregivers want. And you've got to have the discipline to cut it down to 21 rules, right? Okay. There are some things that are, I think we got some time for this, so I'm going to hit this a little bit. Analogies are more important than numbers to paint a picture in the mind's eye, right? So saying oh golly, I got to think of an example. Saying that we, heck, man, I'm not thinking of a good analogy right now. I always think about the circumference of the earth. The circumference of the earth is, I think it's just over 26,000 miles, I think is what it is. I think it's over 26,000 miles. But it's better to say, you know, the circumference of the earth, you know, if we laid the earth out flat, it would be, you know, twice the distance of going to the moon or something. Like, paint a picture for people. I'm sorry, I don't got a great analogy for that. It's getting a little late in the day for Brian, but I'll think about it for our speeches, all right? And then once again, keep everything super, super simple. And I have put a slide on here of some tactics you should use, which are these CRM systems, community presence, enrollment funnels, digital ads. I mean, you got to be in the game. And I think that the critical thing that I'm going to adjust with these speeches coming up is you're not competing, you're advocating. You're not competing, you're advocating. So I would like to change the slide deck, Caroline, where we're advocating. I want you to advocate. Competition feels scary. And yes, while you're advocating, you're going to upset some people. You're going to break some eggs because people don't want you to advocate for yourselves. But if you're not, then who is? I mean, I will, but I'm an army of one, man. I need some help too, right? I'm with you. I'll get it done. But you're also going to upset the people that don't want you to advocate. You're going to upset the people that want you to fail. And that's okay if we upset them. I mean, I don't want them to be upset, but if they are, well, I think that's okay, right? Because, we want to go and win, and we've got to take care of the babies. We've got to focus on the children. And so if you think about what's best for the children, you'll start to advocate more for yourself. Now, as far as a tactical nature, I need you to start thinking about becoming, having sales teams. And one of the reasons why we got into this business is teachers, principals, superintendents, et cetera, they're educators. That is what they're really good at. And that's what they should do. But you need a trained sales force. Certainly we do that, but I want you to do it on your own. Either way, let's get out there and let's first off, commit to change, commit that the world has changed, just recognize it's changed. Let's start choosing to compete. And once again, I got this word compete. Let's start choosing to advocate. So let's do that. And, if you've got questions, email us to them. I'm going to keep refining this, but I thought that kind of giving you a brief update on some of the tactics that the competition's using will inspire you to advocate more for yourself. Thanks, everybody.